Good evening to all of you. You're watching Lok Sabha TV. I'm Anurag Punetha with you. Today we are going to talk about the US-Pakistan's relations. The relation between US and Pakistan have been kind of waxing and waning in recent time. These relations keep fluctuating ever since Trump took over as president. Donald Trump accused Pakistan of receiving American handouts and failing to provide timely intelligence of terrorists who are working against US interest in Afghanistan particularly. And that Pakistan's attitude of running with hare and hunting with the hounds has left many people fuming in US administration. Though Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan retorted a couple of months back that Trump's false assertions has added insult to the injury Pakistan has suffered in US war on terror in terms of lives lost and destabilized and economic cost. But Trump is not pleased with the explanation. Now, in a new twist, a bill has been introduced in the House of Representatives to remove Pakistan as a major non-NATO ally. It states that the US president needs to certify to the Congress that the Pakistan continues to conduct military operations that are contributing to significantly disrupting the safe haven and freedom of movement of the Haqqani network in the Afghanistan region. It also seeks certification from the Congress that the Pakistan has taken steps to demonstrate its commitment to prevent the Haqqani network from using any Pakistani territory as a safe haven, and that the government of Pakistan actively coordinates with the government of Afghanistan to restrict the movement of militants, particularly Haqqani networks and Taliban, such as the Haqqani network, along the Afghanistan and Pakistan border. And this bill is coming at the time when the Trump administration enhancing its contacts in Islamabad and Pakistan in its pursuit of a peaceful end to the Afghan war and wants to pull out from Afghanistan. What does it mean to the relation between the two nations? We are going to discuss in this edition of Public Forum with two guests. And joining me for the discussion, former ambassador and diplomat Prabhu Dayal. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal has served both in United States and Pakistan. Very warm welcome in the show, sir. My second guest is Mr. Patkar Pine, senior policy analyst. Very warm welcome in the show, Patkar. We'll be starting with you, Ambassador Dayal. I still remember at the time, 2018, January 1st, Trump dropped that bombshell that Pakistan has done nothing and it has given us only lies and deceit. Now, exactly after a year, we are hearing that the bill is being moved in the US Congress. How do you see this movement and then the relation between Pakistan and US?
Well, first of all, let us talk about this bill which has been introduced in the US Congress.
Yeah.
It has been introduced by a Republican congressman whose name is Andy Biggs.
Yeah.
And he has called for Pakistan's name to be dropped from the list of major non-NATO allies.
Yeah.
What is a non-NATO ally? What is a major non-NATO ally? It's a special category of countries with which the US armed forces are engaged strategically. And the list was created in 1989. Initially, it just had 5 members, Australia, Egypt, Israel, Japan, and South Korea. Then more and more countries got to be added.
Okay.
Pakistan got the status of a major non-NATO ally in 2004, when the Americans had stepped up the war against the Taliban in Afghanistan. If you recall, the war against the Taliban started in 2001, October, after the attacks on America. Attacks which were
the 9/11 happened.
The 9/11 attacks by Al-Qaeda. So it was hunting for America's enemies, which led to this war. And Pakistan naturally was very strategically placed because it borders Afghanistan. So America needed Pakistani support. But as you said in your introduction, the Pakistanis have been adopting a very duplicitous policy, a double-faced policy. They have been hunting with the hare, as you said, and running with the hound. Everybody knew that this was happening. The Americans knew it too. And many think tanks in the United States were cautioning America from giving Pakistan huge military aid by treating it as a major non-NATO ally. it was no surprise that Osama bin Laden was found hiding in Pakistan, in Abbottabad, next door to the army headquarters. And the Americans knew it. That is why they were able to attack that compound and kill him. Now, this movement to call a spade and to term Pakistan an impediment and not a help in American activities against the Taliban. This has been stepped up under President Trump. And as you recalled, last year, in his New Year tweet, he said that America had given to Pakistan $33 billion. And in return, Pakistan had given only lies and deceit. Again, there have been many other influential Americans who have been very, very forthrightly speaking about Pakistani duplicity. In October 2017, the then Defense Secretary James Mattis, who resigned only recently, had said that the US was going to consider withdrawing the status of a major non-NATO ally from Pakistan. And therefore the signals were already there. President Trump, I think in November, said that Pakistan has not done a damn thing for us. As in his very typical, characteristic way, he said that we have been giving billions in aid to Pakistan, but Pakistan has not done a damn thing for us. That was very clear about what direction President Trump was wanting to take. And it comes as no surprise, therefore, that a Republican congressman has introduced this bill in the Congress. Of course, the bill is not yet enacted. It has been referred to the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which will deliberate on it, but it should be no surprise if this bill is passed.
But it somehow shows the growing intolerance within the US administration about the role of Pakistan.
Yes, because they are aware of Pakistani duplicity. And why should they give money to Pakistan? Of course, the Americans are, as it is, planning to withdraw from Afghanistan. And the indications are that while they may not withdraw full scale, but they will withdraw a substantial part of their presence. One has come across reports which indicate that they could withdraw up to 7,000 out of the 14,000 troops still in Afghanistan, though it could be less than that. Another figure that has been quoted is 3,500. But the Americans want to retain bases in Afghanistan. And if they have to retain bases there, then naturally they want to ensure the security of those bases. So they have been now talking to the Taliban about the future of Afghanistan, about the peace process. And it has been clearly indicated by the Americans that they want to retain the bases. But the Taliban is opposed to the presence of any foreign forces in Afghanistan. So they are resisting. So one way of putting pressure on Taliban is through Pakistan. Because the Taliban, although Pakistan has been professing to wage war against the Taliban, but that is only for
very few takers.
In reality, Pakistan uses Taliban, and if America wants to put pressure on Taliban, it has to do through Pakistan. And maybe this introduction of this bill is probably an effort to put pressure on Pakistan to exercise pressure on the Taliban.
How do you make out, Pratikar, and especially if it is passed, let's say, hopefully, then how do you see the relation between the two nations? And cornering Pakistan up to that limit is justifiable or not?
Anurag, first of all, let us look at what does Pakistan get as part of being a major non-NATO ally. So, as a major non-NATO ally, they have access to specific and major foreign aid from United States. They are part of the defense cooperation programs. They get priority in delivery of defense material. They get a loan guarantee program from United States for buying weapon systems in case a private bank is funding it. So the loan guarantee is given by the United States government. They can stockpile American weapon systems and material. They get access to critical weapon systems. And they are also part of defense and research development programs in collaboration with United States. All these are the benefits that you get as part of a major non-NATO ally of United States. So once you are taken off the list, then invariably there are pressure on Pakistan because a critical part of these weapon systems that they were getting from United States were getting diverted towards other organizations, militant organizations, you can say, for nefarious activities. And I think for a long period of time, the Americans were turning a blind eye towards it. It didn't happen. The Pakistani treachery didn't start in one day. It started from November 2001 through something called the Kunduz airlift, when before the Americans could reach the Kunduz Valley in Afghanistan, they had the Pakistan Air Force had special transport planes taking away thousands of Taliban and Al-Qaeda commanders and their ISI mentors, airlifting them from Afghanistan into Pakistan, and the Americans knew about it. So it's not that in one day they have started this treachery. It happened right in front of their eyes, and they remained blind eye towards it. Secondly, if you look at what has happened from 2008 January, after that tweet that you rightly mentioned, first, the aid was cut. Secondly, the reimbursement that they used to get and the coalition support fund that they used to get was cut down. Third, they were put under the Financial Action Task Force watch list. Fourth, America put pressure on IMF that you can't keep on bailing out Pakistan by giving them money which they will use to repay their Chinese loans.
Exactly.
After that, this bill has come that they will be taken off the list of major non-NATO ally. Probably the logical conclusion after this would be to define them as a state sponsor of terror. The question is, all these things Americans are doing, which is good enough. The question is, can it stop Pakistan from doing what it is doing? That is a major question mark, because if you look at the Pakistani institutions, the Pakistani military institutions, Pakistani intelligence agencies, they consider supporting militant organizations as a part of that tradecraft and mechanism to support, to keep their sovereignty and national identity intact. So even if you do all these things, there's no guarantee that they will stop doing all this, and they always have a recourse to the Chinese and the Saudis and everyone else to support them when they are almost on the verge of sinking. So it happened this time also. So steps taken by America in this, their interest is good enough, but there are question marks whether it's going to work at all or not.
Mr. Dayal, I mean, it's emotionally satisfying to see that the Pakistan is being cornered, and but the US approach to isolate Pakistan and encircle Pakistan is, many believe is unlikely to work, because Pakistan has better leverage to somehow over many things. And competing views are also coming from Pakistan. The present foreign minister is saying that the US-Pakistan relation should not be seen through the prism of Afghanistan and through the India lens, and it should be seen in isolation. And the former foreign minister Hina Rabbani Khan said that the Pakistan has always chosen to be the client state instead of the becoming strategic partner of one country. So I mean, the competing views. I only suggest, I want to ask you that the competing views are coming from the Pakistani society in general, that whether it should continue with the present policy or isolate from that.
Well, the competing views are no doubt coming from within Pakistan and from certain other sources. But the reality is that America needs Pakistan for pursuing its war against the Taliban in Afghanistan. If it is not engaged in this war, it doesn't need Pakistan. And it can show Pakistan for what that country really is, a country which is a state sponsor of terrorism. Now, it is not just an emotional issue. It is a very practical issue, because as my co-panelist mentioned, by being a major non-NATO ally of the United States, Pakistan was deriving huge benefits. And it milked the United States in this relationship to get funds, to get arms. Now, for us, this matter is worrisome, Pakistan getting weaponry from the United States, because no doubt that weaponry can be used against us and is being used against us. So if the arms supply tap is cut off, then we stand to gain, because why should the Pakistanis be getting free weaponry and free assistance from the Americans? Because the Americans know, as well as anybody else, that those weapons are misused.
Yeah, exactly.
As the late Mr. Krishna Menon, who was India's defense minister, had said, that gun which can fire in only one direction is yet to be invented. In other words, the weaponry which the Americans are giving to Pakistan is ostensibly to be used against Afghanistan, but in real terms, it is used against us.
That's right.
So as my co-panelist mentioned, it is of great satisfaction to Pakistan to continue getting the status of a major non-NATO ally. But as far as we are concerned, we should convince the United States not to consider diluting its stand in this regard. The US Congress is yet to deliberate on it, but I hope that it will withdraw this status, and the bill that is being introduced puts some stiff conditions if Pakistan has to be re-given this status.
Yeah, exactly.
That is to say that it must wage warfare and to be seen waging warfare against the Haqqani network and to be prosecuting and killing the leaders of the Haqqani network. But Pakistan is a past master at deception. It always makes it appear that it is carrying out such activities, but what it does is something very different. And why is that so? The Haqqani network is needed by Pakistan to exert its influence in Afghanistan. Pakistan doesn't have any other leverage except terrorism. It cannot give huge financial assistance because its own financial resources are really at the rock bottom. It is getting assistance from other sources, but it can't give assistance. It can't build dams. It can't build hospitals like India is doing. It can only assist disruptionist forces like the Haqqani network. The Haqqani network works in tandem with the Taliban, and it's an offshoot of the Taliban. So Pakistan will never disavow the Haqqani network when it comes to real politics, because without the Haqqani network, how does Pakistan exert that influence which it wants to exert? Pakistan wants to uproot the government in Kabul because it considers that government is unfriendly to Pakistan. It wants to put a Taliban-led government in Afghanistan. And for doing that, the Haqqani network is of great importance to it.
That's right. Bhaskar, do you find some substance in the reports that the Pakistani military increasingly seeing the country's battered economy as a security threat, so somehow pushing the Pakistani civilian government to somehow mend ways either with India or let's say to other countries? In fact, experts are also saying that the doctrine, Bajwa doctrine, is somehow working, and Bajwa was the only chief of the Pakistani army staff who somehow initiated the backdoor channel with the Indian establishment. So that the growing, what you call the frustration within the Pakistan is the reason.
Anurag, if you look at Pakistan as a country, it's not for the first time they are in a financial mess. I mean, probably before this, there were 12 to 13 times they have already been bailed out by IMF. So Pakistan as a country and the kind of jihadist mentality they have deeply embedded inside them, I don't think they give too much importance to issues like foreign exchange reserve or balance of payment or economic growth or inflation. Their core objective and ideologies are very different, and fact of the matter is, the more there is turmoil within the country, the more it suits the military establishment to make themselves much more, have a bigger say in the state of affairs. The more it becomes easier for them to, spread atrocious and venomous ideologies and spread hatred against India or the Americans. Even now, if you look at what's happening inside Pakistan, for every mess that is there inside Pakistan, you talk to the average Pakistani, they would always blame India and America for that, not for their own and not themselves for what the mess they have created.
You're also talking about whatever happened in Karachi recently.
Everything. Talk about if you ask them what's the reason for the mess inside your country, they'll say Americans are responsible and the Indians are responsible. So there will be no introspection, and that's how they are groomed from probably the childhood and the school. And so if they will keep on blaming them, but sorry if it's an unparliamentary word, but they have always been the willing mistress or the concubine of the Americans, doing everything that America wants them to do in lieu of keeping a blind eye towards what the Pakistanis would do towards India. So it has been like that. They were very much happy to do what the Americans told them to do. If today you have a Taliban within Pakistan, it's because the Pakistanis, out of sheer pressure from America, started killing those very terrorists whom they have groomed, mentored, incubated and trained to fight in Afghanistan. So they can't keep on blaming today that the Americans are doing all this to us, because you knew this is how it is going to be. Look, if you look at what Trump is doing, today they have considerably destroyed the capacity of Al-Qaeda or Taliban to have another 9/11 kind of an attack within United States. And United States, through the Homeland Security architecture, have considerably increased their resilience, the American resilience against such kind of terror attack. Their threat today is more from lone wolves attacking on their own, brainwashed by social media videos of ISIs and all that. So to that extent, the threat has got reduced. The mess will be localized in Pakistan, Afghanistan region. India may have to face the consequence of that, not the Americans. So the Americans are gradually moving away from Afpak region, where nobody ever has won, honestly. And so whatever Americans are doing is primarily because for them the utility value of Pakistan has gone down. Question is, will it solve all the problems? No. India would have to find its own ways out to prevent another kind attack or something like that, which may emanate from Pakistan again, because it will continue to, Pakistan will not mend its ways, and they will always have, if you talk about weapon systems, the Americans will stop giving weapons, the Chinese will give it to them now.
Okay, my next question about that Sino-Pakistan relation. I mean, the diplomats in Islamabad also say that the Pakistan's outreach probably to India or US may also be driven in part by the Chinese push. Beijing has prodded Pakistan to mend its ways and calm its border, because China's over economic ambitions in this region, especially the CPEC I'm talking about. Do you see this is the reason that Pakistan is doing something?
Well, Pakistan and China have described each other as their all-weather friends. And the Chinese have invested very heavily in Pakistan in terms of the CPEC. And that is the reason why they want Pakistan to do its best to exert control wherever the Chinese are setting up projects, that is along the CPEC. The Chinese don't mind at all if the Pakistanis are hostile and create trouble along the border with India. In fact, that is what the Chinese really want. The Chinese want Indian attention to be distracted by Pakistani activities. The Chinese have been using Pakistan as their cat's paw to attack India, and that is why they have been supplying Pakistan with weaponry, which is way beyond what Pakistan really needs, because these defense supplies are to be used against India. They are not really meant for defensive purposes. Now, the Chinese know full well that if the Americans get distanced from Pakistan, then Pakistan will have to rely more heavily on the Chinese. I slightly disagree with my co-panelists in the sense that Pakistan really doesn't care if its foreign exchange reserves are down to the rock bottom, because it does need foreign exchange to meet its import requirements, and frankly it just has a few weeks of foreign exchange reserves left. Recently it has managed to get some packages from Saudi, from Saudi Arabia, from UAE and from China, but these are not really grants. These are loans. This is money which is parked with the Pakistanis, or these are in terms of investments, for instance, which the Saudis plan to do in terms of setting up a petroleum refinery near Gwadar. The point is that the Pakistani public is disenchanted with the poor quality of life which is being thrust on them. And the Pakistani government has made it very clear that it wants to do something to alleviate the situation of the average Pakistani. So, in other words, it needs to improve and upgrade its infrastructure. It needs to do something towards the welfare of the common man. If you remember, when Imran Khan came to power, he promised a Naya Pakistan. A Naya Pakistan which would be beneficial towards the average Pakistani. But we don't see any signs of that happening, because the army's control over the civilian government is complete. The army has its way entirely with the civilian government. The religious extremists continue to dominate the agenda and dictate terms to the Pakistan government, as happened following the Asia Bibi case.
Yeah.
Pakistan's dependence on foreign assistance remains as before, and we see very little signs of things changing.
Okay.
I also want to point out that the Americans have ignored Pakistani misdeeds from a very long time. They have ignored the fact that Pakistan has been double dealing them. For instance, I was posted in Pakistan in the mid-80s, and at that time, President Reagan gave billions and billions of dollars in assistance to Pakistan.
To fight with the Soviets.
Because Pakistan was regarded in Ziaul Haq's time as a frontline state.
Okay.
But President Reagan had to every year give a certificate that Pakistan is not developing a nuclear bomb.
Okay.
Everybody knew that Pakistan was developing a nuclear bomb. And the CIA kept cautioning President Reagan about this matter. But yet President Reagan ignored reality and certified that Pakistan is not making a nuclear bomb and gave it billions and billions of dollars. So even recently, Pakistan has managed to get advantage.
Pakistan has been the master of this.
Whatever advantage it could because of its strategic location.
So a short answer from you, Patkrit. I mean, do you still believe that China's, it is unfathomable for me to understand that the China has interest in Pakistan and Afghanistan and in Iran as well, in the regional, the economic ambitions in this region. But why the China is not putting pressure to Pakistan to somehow mend its ways in terms of relation with India, to Afghanistan, and somehow up to extent with the Iran as well.
Anurag, the reason that China requires a Gwadar port and that whole thing is because of the Strait of Hormuz and the Malacca Strait, which they want to avoid, because that's where the Chinese are a little weak. So they want this other way out. We need to keep in mind that when the communists were being fought against by the Mujahidins, they hated the communists because they were atheists and they were godless, that they believed in. The Chinese are similarly communist and godless. So
but the Pakistani don't hate the way.
Yeah,
I mean.
for the sake of convenience that the Chinese will not say anything to what we do, and they will help us to fight against the Indians. The day China would start dictating terms to them that don't do this, don't do terrorism, that very day they will consider them as they have considered the Soviets. So that is what the Chinese are a little cautious, and they're concerned about also about this. So maybe for the short term, everything is going hunky-dory. In the long run, I'm sorry to say, the Chinese might face what the Soviets faced in 1989. So that has to be kept in mind by the
Very
Chinese.
short comment from you. I mean, this what you call overhyped term of this China-Pakistan friendship is very fragile. I mean, it's a friendship of convenience at this moment. Somehow the things go against the Pakistani interest. I mean, they will become enemies.
Well, their interests coincide in a variety of ways. One very important reason which brings them together is the fact that both are really hostile towards India. For the Chinese, my enemy's enemy is my friend. The Chinese treat us as a market, but in reality, they would never like to see India attain its full stature. And Pakistan helps the Chinese to fight against India and to pull us down, to divert our resources. I just want to say one last thing. The future of Afghanistan lies in peaceful talks. Everyone is hopeful for that. The Pakistanis are preventing that from happening. The Taliban is preventing that from happening. And according to the latest reports I have seen, even little issues like where the talks should take place and who should take part are becoming stumbles.
That's stubborn. So it's a new blow. I mean, we can say to the Pakistan and its own doing, and it's satisfying to see the Pakistan being pushed to the corner. But it would be foolish to expect a country who chose proxies as its national policies, who chose terrorism as its national policies, whether against India or Afghanistan, to improve. Now cornered Pakistan is realizing that the things are up against the nation, and shunning violence is the only way forward. Sooner this realization bestows on Pakistani, better would be for Pakistan and its citizens. Thank you very much, Ambassador Rudhyal, for coming and talking to us. Thank you very much, Patkrit, for coming and talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of Public Forum. Thank you very much for watching.